Welcome everyone to Tell Me That. My name is Paul, and in this podcast I interview my dad to find out about his interesting, funny and enlightening life stories. So if you are interested in learning from my dad, then stay tuned.
Hi Paul, welcome back to our podcast.
Hello, Dad.
And this time, the story that I'm gonna tell you this time is kind of weird, because I was actually on very safe ground, because as I told you in that last podcast, I saved that company. I finished this big project in Brazil. The company received their money, and from the bank we got some money, and we had the opportunity to lay off a couple of people that we really didn't need at all. And the company was stabilizing and slowly getting into the profitable path. So now anyway, I spend a lot of time in the company and traveling and visiting customers, and so what I needed now was people, a good sales manager, a good secretary, and I hired already one guy, the engineering manager, and which was a very good decision because he designed that machine that we delivered to this customer in Brazil. And he kind of worked himself into this portable machine tool field, and he was the perfect person for that position. Now, I remember the guy from Düsseldorf that I used to work with, a great salesman, and so I hired him as a sales manager for the company. Well, it's let's say an export sales manager, because we had a domestic sales manager already, and he was doing quite well. So an export sales manager, and I also had the opportunity to hire my former secretary that I had when I was a sales director at this big machine tool company. And so I created a very professional team, and we didn't have to waste any time to get used to each other and to get to know each other, because we could actually start from day one. I mean, we knew each other. These guys, they know me and my habits, and so it was a perfect team. Now, basically, from the professional point of view, everything worked out pretty well. In my private life, well, things turned into a disaster, because since I spent a lot of time with my job and traveling and so on, that didn't really help for family life, and my ex-wife actually was more into that 8 to 5 husband. You leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, you are back at 5 o'clock. I heard that 1,000 times, just like our neighbor, just like our neighbor. He's also a director in his own company, which was not quite true. It was his dad's company, and whether he started at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or coming back at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it didn't really matter. It was all private business. And so, but anyway, I had to listen to that quite often. So,
But probably as a result, you also didn't earn as much and wasn't as successful.
Well, I mean, you have to make a decision,
Exactly.
8 to 5 means like $5,000 a month,
Yeah.
and if you don't really look at your watch all the time and you push for success and invest time. Time is valuable, And you invest time, then it's not 5,000, it's 10,000, And of course, my ex-wife wanted to have this 8 to 5 guy at home. But on the other hand, she really appreciated having this beautiful BMW, this beautiful house, the beautiful clothes and jewelry and all that stuff, So, but you can't have it all,
No.
So, the situation at home became very critical, and I don't want to go too much into that. At the end of the day, we separated. I felt kind of bad for my son, for Andreas. But anyway, he was old enough to understand. At that time, he was 15 years old, and he kind of understood. I mean, he could witness every day the discussions that we had and the fights that we went through. And so I think leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning with 2 suitcases, this is what I did. It was actually the best for all of us, And I made a deal that she could keep the house, she could keep her beautiful car, and also a fair amount of money. In return, I didn't want to pay any future monthly payments, so I wanted to start from scratch without any items from the past that I had to carry along, So it worked out. She could handle the situation. In fact, it didn't take very long, and she got engaged again with another gentleman. Well, it was a very successful businessman, and apparently he could manage this 8 to 5 situation, and so they were happy. I was happy, because I started my life all over again. I moved into the house of my mother, as I mentioned in previous podcasts. She had an apartment building, and I rebuilt one of the apartments, turned it into a little paradise, I mean, made everything new, like the walls, the floors, the new heating system, and I mean, it was beautiful, new doors, just great, So privately, I kind of settled down again, and I was also happy to be alone, to not having that pressure every day when you get home, and go through these discussions. And so on the private side, I was, let's call it single, really, without any pressure at home. And on the business side, I kind of tried to use the potential of this company I was working for to create growth for the owners, of course, and let's say also for myself, because if you can manage to grow a company, you always will play a key role in that system,
Yeah. But coming back to the private factors, would you do things differently? I mean, you got married at 21, I think.
Yeah, 22.
22, which is crazy because I'm turning 22 soon, and I cannot imagine getting married.
I tell you, it was like suicide, I mean,
as a result, you have another son. You have Andreas,
yeah,
which is beautiful, and you have grandchildren, which you wouldn't have otherwise. But would you separate earlier?
Well, to be quite honest, the first time I was willing to separate was about 8 years before I got separated. The years after our return, they kind of were. There was a lot of pressure, because, as I mentioned before, the life in USA and in Brazil was so different, I mean, for me, it was not that big of a difference because I had the same job. I traveled a lot and I met people, and I was an engineer that could create great solutions. But for my ex-wife, it was kind of difficult, It's so even though I bought a nice house in a great neighborhood, and she made some friends there, of course, but it was not the life that we used to have in the United States and in Brazil, So, and I thought about this quite often, and I think the pressure that was built up during the day. So, I mean, when I got home at 6 or 7 o'clock, I was the valve, to let off that pressure.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can do that, once a month, okay, or twice a month, but you cannot do that every day.
Yeah.
If you start fighting every day, it's no good. It's not good for all members of the family, So to make a clean cut was a difficult decision, not easy, but it was the right thing to do, But
And you did it for 8 years, right?
Well,
did it get better? So you considered getting a divorce 8 years prior, and then you got a divorce 8 years later. Meaning, in between, did it get better and worse?
Well, it kind of stabilized. And I was most of the time I was traveling anyway, So, but after these 8 years, there was just a situation where I was suffering, and this private disaster, it actually influenced my performance in the company.
Yeah, can imagine.
And this is something that I could not tolerate anymore, So to make a clean cut was the best thing to do, and the feelings that I had towards my ex-wife, to be quite honest, there were not that many feelings left, because when you yell at each other every day, feelings are dying, and you just want this to stop, So I made that clean cut, which I should have done 8 years before, but anyway. So I was on my own again. I still had great contact to Andreas, and for a long time, actually. But I get back to that later on.
Yeah.
Now I had all the time to concentrate on my job. And I focused very much on the company and what I could do to make the company grow. And I had a weird idea, So this company was making repair and testing equipment, little grinding machines, and testing equipment to refurbish industrial valves. The manufacturers of valves, they were not very interesting of fixing valves.
Yeah.
They want to sell new valves,
yeah.
So the customer base was kind of limited, It was at the time, it was I would say it was kind of for this company, it was kind of between $15 and $20 million market but that was it, and so there was not really a organic growth.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and to go into this merger and acquisition stuff, I mean, there were two competitors, and that was it.
Yeah.
And both competitors, I mean, they were like enemies, and so they didn't even want to talk about joint ventures or getting together and creating a big company. No way. So I had the idea to go into the markets where customers had a need for valve repair. And from the past, I knew that there was India and Thailand. So in Thailand, there was a big demand for valves because they had a lot of oil drilling platforms in the sea. And when there were valves needed, they just took them out, they threw them in a corner and put a new valve in, which got quite expensive, also for these big oil companies. So I had a great contact in Thailand, an old friend of mine, a German guy, that had started an engineering company serving these big oil companies, with engineering jobs, And I discussed with him the possibility of starting a joint venture in Thailand, building building a service company. We have the equipment that's needed to refurbish these big industrial valves. Building a service company, approaching these big oil companies and let them know that they don't have to throw away these very expensive valves anymore. We can refurbish them and have them as spare valves, and they would be immediately available if they are needed, and that was just like a hitting the bullseye, It was just great idea.
Meaning that you did the service and you didn't sell the machine to repair the valve. You repaired the valve.
No, we just repaired the valves.
Yeah.
We offered the service,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the clue for us in Germany was we created a service company in Thailand, and it was an independent little company. It was a 60-40% joint venture, and they had to purchase their equipment from us. Mm-hmm. So all these repair machines and valve testing equipment and all that stuff. So for one company, you need about almost $2 million of equipment to get started. And then when you sell the machines to get started, you have this ongoing business, these consumables that you need, like grinding paper and lapping paste and tooling and all that. So there is a monthly business. You start a monthly business with them. So my partner in Thailand, well, who had a lot of money anyway, but he was so fascinated, and we just did it, we just did it. We started this company in Maptaput. It's close to Pattaya, and within like 8 months from scratch, we created this company. He, our partner, did all the acquisitions, going to the customers, let them know, and so on. And I tell you, after 8 months, there were truckloads of valves coming in, and we started to refurbish the valves. But we were also lucky because in Bangkok, we met a guy who was in his previous years, he was working in the valve repair business. And he retired in Thailand. He was married to a Thailand girl. And we offered him the job as a plant manager. And that was also a very good decision because he knew every valve. He knew all the processes. He created these working sheets, these process sheets and so on. So it was, I mean, to be quite honest, I was so lucky. I didn't have to do a lot because it just happened by itself, you know. So after like 8 to 10 months, we had an ongoing business in Thailand, getting orders from them every month for spare parts, for tooling, for consumables and so on. And we got this big order in the beginning, you know, for all these machines and testing equipment and all that, which drove the revenue and profit of our company here in Germany, I mean, sky high, you know. And since that was such a success story, I repeated that also in India. I had a friend in India, in Hyderabad, and a very, very rich family. And the son of my friend, he just finished his school. He was an engineer, mechanical engineer, and then he had to look for an adequate job for his son. You know, I mean, India is a very special country in that regard. You know, so for him working on the shop floor or in a design office, no way. He had to be the leader of a company, you know, a manager of a company.
That's great.
You know, so
immediately out of university.
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
Well, but it's different. It's different. It is something that we cannot really understand. It's a question of image, reputation, you know, and money, you know.
Yeah.
And I explained my idea to him, and I said, well, we can do a joint venture, you know, 60-40, and I can give you a reference. My friends in Thailand, you please feel free to call them and or just go there. It's not that far, you know. And that is what he actually did, you know. He went to see these guys in Thailand, and he was sold the first day, you know. So we did the same thing in India, you know. And this place in Germany, it was just booming. Yeah. Just booming.
Meaning 60-40, meaning you own 60%?
We had the majority, you know, and that was good.
So also of the profits that they made, did you also get 60%?
Yes. Well, the profit share was also 60-40, you know. Yeah. Well, I mean, after cost.
Sure.
Cost coverage.
Sure. However, I imagine in these countries, I don't know for sure, but I guess you don't pay a lot of taxes, which would also have benefits.
Well, in these countries, there are always ways to avoid to pay too much taxes, you know. So basically, but this was something that these guys were taking care of.
Of course.
Know?
I mean, they know it.
Was there. The engineering part was our job, and the administrative part was their job, and they did a great job. But I tell you one thing, it was all based on trust. Mm-hmm. Based on trust, you know, and so in company setups like this, you know, if one party wants to screw the other party, you know, it's easily possible, you know. Yeah. But I mean, you do that once, and it's the business is gone, you know. Yeah. So, well, they were all happy and making money, and we were making even more money. And after I was with the company for 2 years, we made already 1.5 million Deutsche Marks profit here in Germany. I mean, from almost being bankrupt, you know, to 1.5 million profit a year. That was quite a step, and our bank was more than happy, and the owner of the company was happy, and well, the two kids, they didn't really know much about business. I don't even know whether they were happy or not happy, or well, and I didn't.
I mean, since the son spent I don't know how many semesters studying business, probably he just wasn't made for it.
No, he wasn't made for it, you know. But anyway, and now we get into a situation that I still remember, because, believe it or not, but he finished university. You know?
Yeah, incredible.
He finished university, and I don't know how, but I remember one thing, and that was that my secretary, she was typing his thesis. So I shouldn't even say that.
Why? It doesn't matter. It's years ago.
Yes, it's a long time ago. But anyway, what I want to say is that the young man was definitely not the future head of this company here, you know. I mean, and his dad knew this, you know, and his sister, the same thing, you know, still dreaming about this diving school in the Dom Rep, or I don't know.
How old was his sister?
At that time, his sister was about 1-2 years younger than me, about 40.
Okay. Oh, it's still dreaming about the diving school.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so then the day came when the young man finished university, and he, of course, didn't need to look for a job, because he got into the company, got a beautiful office, and called himself managing director.
He was managing director.
Yeah, from day one. And he ordered himself a big Mercedes-Benz in the morning, and I canceled the order in the afternoon, because I was responsible for the financials of the company, you know, and I mean, this was just not possible.
But if he was managing director, was he above you?
No.
Okay.
No, just a title, you know.
Okay.
Just a title. Yeah. It's not. He didn't have the function of a managing director.
Okay.
But he was a managing director. You know?
But he didn't do anything.
No. But he had a beautiful office.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, the case with this company car that I canceled didn't really make him a friend of mine, you know. So, and then the situation that his sister, who was single, and I was single, and I don't, maybe she even thought that I was more than, or I had the potential to be more than a managing director of the company. But I didn't share that idea at all, you know. So, and I think I made her understand that this there was no way that, or there was no room for more. Let's put it that way. So, the second good friend in the company. Now, the old man, in the meantime, he turned about 74 years of age. He had an idea. He was so fascinated about the joint ventures that I made in India and Thailand. He had the idea that he also has to do something. You know, he has to discover new markets and create additional business, and his focus was on China. China, yeah. And I said, well, stay away from China. Mm-hmm. I mean, remember, we are talking about 1996, not 2024, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, stay away from China. You send a couple of machines to China, they copy these machines, and you are out of business.
That was my first thought.
Yeah,
They will just copy it.
Well, these machines were not complicated, And he said, well, no, I hired a manager for China market, and I will visit with her the market next month, and she has good contacts. And I said, wait. You said her and she, and is that a lady that you hired? Yes, a Chinese lady, and she is going to help me to find potential customers and joint venture partners. And so he traveled a couple of times to China with her, and they had let's put it that way, they had a very close relationship. And so one day he came back and he showed me a contract that he signed in perfect German. I mean, even from a grammatical point of view, perfect German. It was a joint venture contract. And I said, well, I hope you didn't sign that, Yes, he said, I signed this. It's joint venture, just like you made in India. I said, well, I'm going to check that, and I'll also have it checked with my lawyers, So, because it's not easy to make joint ventures, There are a lot of traps in these contracts, and especially China. And since that contract is in perfect German, it shows that these people that you are dealing with, they know exactly what they are doing, And so I had that contract checked. Well, I checked it myself, and I was not very happy with it. Then our lawyers, they checked the contract, and they said, well, I just hope that he didn't sign it, because anyway, well, he had signed the contract, and it cost us within a couple of weeks already like $1 million Deutschmarks.
Wow.
Well, we had to supply 500,000 Deutschmarks value in machines and 500,000 Deutschmarks in cash.
That's tough.
And and then in return, we got the right to use a workshop in, I have seen photographs, out in the boondocks, broken windows, and just terrible. The whole thing was a setup, So
I mean, for the joint ventures in India and Thailand, did you also supply the cash?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not one dime.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That was the deal. We supply the machines, and they supply the cash and the building, So that was pretty safe, But in this case here, we had to come up with machines and cash, So, and I talked to the old man. I said, hey, listen, it was a big mistake that you made, and I mean, you can't do that, and there is no way out. I had the contract checked with our lawyers, and they say, well, big mistake, And the only answer I got was, this is my company, and with my company, I can do what I want. So the third friend that I had in the company, So from that day on, working in the company was not really fun anymore.
Yeah.
And I still had, I created a couple of great big projects in the UK, for instance, with some former business friends of mine. We had a big project for valve test benches. And I mean, the projects that I was working on, they turned out to be quite successful. But, I mean, just this feeling that the money that you create goes into the projects that he has created in China, I mean, it was not very satisfying, It was, I was pretty pissed off, to be quite honest. Anyway, so now we make a little shift now from business to private life. Yeah, because at the same time in my private life also things were changing, because one evening, it was kind of late, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. My secretary and I, we were still working on a big quotation for a customer in the UK, and we finished that at, I think it was about 7 o'clock, and we were both kind of done. It was a hell of a lot of work. And this lady that I hired a couple of years before, she was married. She just got divorced because she was not very lucky with her husband, and after 9 months, this marriage was already cancelled. But she was such a charming lady, and I just thought, how can someone treat a lady like this, But anyway, it was not really my business. But I mean, on the other hand, I was also single, and my first thought when I got separated was no woman in my life again. I mean, just stay single till the rest of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that evening made a big change, because I said, well, we did a great job, and we got that quote done, and we can send it out tomorrow, and you must be hungry. Yeah, I said, boy, I'm really hungry. I said, well, I know a little Italian place. Why don't we have a little bite there? So we went to this Italian place, and to make a long story short, they kicked us out at like 1 o'clock at night, And from that day, we met a few times, and to make a long story short, we got engaged. We became very close friends, and she also helped me with my future professional life. But we get to that later on. So. This lady, my secretary, was actually your mom,
Surprise.
So, but how she became your mom, and so we get to that later on. So
that evening, was it your intention to get something started with her, or was it just let's just have something to eat?
Not at all. I was tired and hungry, and she was tired and hungry, and you see, these things happen, So I was not the hungry wolf looking for a victim.
But could have been, she's a nice lady and interested.
But anyway, I mean, I was too much focused on business and so on, and I had my head full of this crap, and so. We just walked to we just went to this little restaurant, and we just talked. She told me her story, and I told her my story, and we found out that we have a lot of things in common, and also the way we look at things was very, very alike, So, but how we got closer, I get to that later on. I mean, this how it went on business-wise in this company, it was kind of dirty, So the old man and his 2 kids, they were kind of team against Willie,
Yeah.
And I mean, you can stand that pressure for a certain time, and when it gets into this private stuff, and when people start to kind of hate you, because you criticize them, and then it's no fun anymore. So one day I was sitting, or one day, it was just a few weeks later, after I criticized the old man, I was sitting at my desk and I was just about to send this guy in the UK my final price, and he was ready to place the order, actually, So, but the door opened and there was the whole family coming in, so dad, son, and sister, and a lawyer, a lawyer. And the lawyer said, well, Mr. Sarik, please clean your desk. And your boss, the owner of the company, has decided to let you go. And it's going to be a regular termination of your contract. We're going to pay your contract till the end, but we want you to leave the company today. So I said, well, what can I say? If that's what they want to do, then let's do it. And he said, well, you also have to leave your company car, which was an Audi A6, beautiful car. You also have to leave your company car here, and that's it. So please, I stay here until you're done, and then you just leave the company. And so I cleaned my desk, I took all my personal belongings, and I left the company. I was standing in front of the company at the street, was kind of lost. I was still thinking about, holy mackerel, what happened, And then the door opened, and my secretary came out. She also got fired.
Yeah.
She said, well, what happened to these people? It's unbelievable. We are the people that saved their butt, and just while we were talking, the door opened again, and the sales manager that I hired came out.
Yeah.
And he said, what the hell is going on here? And 5 minutes later, the engineering manager came out. So all the people that I hired, this team that I had forged, the let's say the team that created that big success, they fired all these people because I criticized them, what they did, what they, how they behaved, and because I canceled the car that the young man ordered, and I criticized the old man because the money he was just wasting, the money that we earned, it was hard-earned money, and he was just throwing it out the window, And his daughter, okay, let's just skip that part, but she was also not my friend. So, it was more or less an emotional act.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with business reasons or really did not perform anymore.
Yeah.
It was just personal. It was just emotional. So, but anyway, we were standing there, and the engineering manager and the sales manager, they said, well, they're going to go to their lawyers, and they will find an additional agreement with the company. And I was just standing there, and my secretary said, well, can I give you a ride? I said, well, if you don't mind, why don't you just take me to my mom's house? I have an apartment there, but I just feel like having a cup of coffee at my mom's place and a piece of cake and just settle down a little bit. So this is what we did, We went to my mom's apartment, to my mom's house, and we had a beautiful afternoon with coffee and cake, and then she kind of left. She was not that sad about this, because she was probably also kind of happy that it came to an end, because the past 2 weeks were just terrible, And so this company was history. It was a success story, definitely.
Yeah.
Because the company was on very safe ground again, making good money, having these 2 big joint ventures in Thailand and India that are, even today, they are still cash cows,
Wow.
And so for them, life was good. And I had to think about, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
And the idea that I had was, for many, many years, you are managing companies, you are making a lot of money for other people. At the end of the day, okay, you always got paid very well, but the big chunk was always with the other guys that owned the company or that were above you. So, and I thought, why can't you start a company and start a business on your own? Then you have to report to anyone, you can make your own decisions, and I think that is what I'm going to do. And this is what I actually did. In 1998, I started a company with my secretary,
Yeah.
with the engineering manager that was also fired, but he was such a valuable person, and such a good engineer. The sales manager, he didn't go for that, he wanted to do something on his own. He wanted to work for a big company again. So we were 3 guys that wanted to start a company. Or these 2 guys were actually willing to join me starting a company. The financial part was still my business. And then there was another guy, another young fellow. He used to be a young designer with the company that we were working for. And he called me one night and he said, well, I heard that you guys are going to start your own company, and I want to be part of that. I said, young man, if we start a company, this is almost like committing suicide, if you leave your safe job now and come on board, it might well be that in 6 months that you are standing on the street and you don't have a job, that you don't have anything. And right now you are married, you have a little kid, and so it's risk. And he said, I don't give a shit. I want to be part of it, So that was a good attitude. It was a good attitude, and he was so, for him it was, failure was not an option. It was absolutely not an option. So we were 4 guys, engineering manager, the young engineer, secretary, and me. We 4 guys started a company. But this is something that I'm going to tell you about in our next podcast.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me have the opportunity to review my life with you. It is. For me, it is kind of fun on one hand, but also something that is very valuable for me. It means a lot to me, and I hope that with the podcast that we're still gonna make, that I can contribute a little bit to your life, and that the guys that are listening to us are having fun. And once again, I mean, if you guys out there have any questions, just let us know. Okay, take care.
Yeah. I mean, I'm learning each episode. I enjoy it.
Okay. Take care.
See you next time.
Okay, see you next time.
Thank you everyone for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from my dad. If you're interested in how his story continued, then make sure to tune in again next week for some more lessons. Also, make sure to share this podcast with your family and friends. I would love to see you again next week. Until then, have a good time.